52 weeks, and we are in our 27th week. Let us start. We have with us Dr. Fahima Finance of our institution to share her knowledge on how to write the journal papers, and she will be discussing in detail about the various steps in writing the journal papers. She has completed her PhD from University of Madras, and she is having experience in teaching commerce from Dr. M.J. Janaki College and Dampadi. She is a member of International Association of Academic Plus Corporate FRT-JQZ. She has published a lot of papers in reputed journals, and she's a regular learner by attending regular FDPs, webinars, and seminars. She is an expert in handling classes on financial accounting, principles of management, performance management, and working capital management. She has authored a book, Performance Management, The Secret of Performing Regular Things Extraordinarily Well, which is available in Amazon. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your knowledge and time and sharing your knowledge on writing a journal paper. Thank you so much, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll share my PowerPoint. Hope this is visible. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible and your content is visible.
Yes. A very good morning to one and all present here. My special thanks to ST Deepa ma'am for creating this platform where I got a chance to start my career aspiration to be the resource person. Thank you, ma'am. And I would like to thank everybody who's a part of this session. So when I wanted to talk, yes. So when I wanted to tell you about the steps to writing the research article, I would like to divide the entire session into the two steps. The first one, I would like to talk about the initial stages where should have the willingness to write. So to start writing a journal, we need to be willing to write. Set up a schedule when you wanted to write, day of a week of yours, so that it becomes easy for you to make up your mind. Of course, we academicians, we have a lot commitments, let it be being the office work or at home. We do have many things, of course, but still we have to pick up a time, and we should put at least a day of the week where we can sit and write peacefully, create a time calendar. So that is how we can proceed. So once we create a time, a willingness, so we have to, that is what I'm trying to say, is we have to harness the power of willingness. And how it can be done is we have to put the calendar reminder. It becomes, when we start doing by scheduling the same time, what happens, journaling will become a natural and a regular part of our agenda. Once we get started with writing, creating a willingness, what happens, we align the time every day. Maybe it is not possible every day, maybe once in a week or twice a week or thrice a week, like ways we have to go with. Once we find kind of willingness to write it, now what happens, we have to find the right place to write it. Of course, we have to find the right place. Even office would be the right place. For me, I feel that after the office work, I stay every day 1 hour where I put on 1 hour to sit and write my articles, where I spend wholeheartedly. So what becomes, first of all, we have to keep this in mind that writing for the academic journals is highly competitive. It is not that simple. We don't have a simple formula for getting it published. We should allow ourselves to focus on writing without any interruption. Let it be 1 hour per day also. It should be without interruptions, where you don't have any commitments. Maybe 1 or 2 days, if you make it a habit, if you create a habit of willingness, now what happens, even if by chance, if you get interrupted 1 day or 2 days, maybe the third day automatically strike your mind and you go ahead. So the initial stage is what happens, you have to create the willingness. And the second thing is you have to create the space. As we have seen, even for the PhD, unless you have a willingness, unless you space the time, you cannot find it. You cannot accomplish in a period of 3.5 years or even 7 years. We have to align ourselves. So these two things are very important. Now, next thing is the next stage where we have to talk about is the writing stage. In the initial stage, we had talked about the willingness, where we create time, we create this. The main stage is the writing stage, where we have to determine the authors. When we are designing our research work, now we have to be very well prepared that how many authors we are going to. Usually in the beginning, what I had my idea is only one should be there, where you won't have arguments. That is what my thought was. So always I had been going for single authorship, where I would decide, where I would prepare, where I thought there would be not much of interruptions. But later on, as I started writing the research articles, I realized that when you have more than two people, more than one amongst you as the author, what happens? You get a lot of ideas. You lead to a mixture of style. So what happens here? Here, it's allow you to use the entire expertise of the various people. Now, we all know very well that each one of us are expert in one thing or the other. For example, in my previous paper, when I wanted somebody to accompany me, I felt that she is more knowledgeable in terms of statistical data, the presentability, everything. So what happened? It was very easy to present it. And of course, what I found was I was able to manage the time. I was able to accomplish on time. If there is any kinds of reviews also, I was able to finish it at the earliest. When designing a research work, it is highly recommended to prepare a initial list. So what I'm trying to say here is, when you decide to write the research article, first of all, make up your mind whether you're going single or with somebody else. So once you decide, it's highly recommended to prepare the initial list and the order of the author. Who is going to contribute what? Otherwise, what would happen? The clashes arises. We all know very well, when we start writing the article, so many stages are there, where you have to write up the abstract, where then you have to go for the introduction, then you have to work upon the statistical data. Before the statistical data, you have to go with the questionnaire. So all these processes there. So divide the entire process divide the entire process and let the author, that is your co-author, also know what is expected from each one. So the final version should reflect actual contribution to the research work. If you are writing with the co-authors, you may wish to assign. So that is what I'm trying to say is you may wish to. So get it done, get it, so that this can save not only the time, but also allow and ensure the best use of the expertise. However, what happens here is it leads to the mixture of the style. Thus, if you take this kind of approach, be certain that the final product is carefully done and edited. Why? Because each one of you give the data. Finally, what I'm trying to say is all the authors together, the co-authors along with the co-authors should sit down together and finalize it. Why? Because it should be the edited copy, what comes out, which is going to go for the publication. It should be at the single voice. It should not be like the introduction speaks something and the conclusion is something, the data collected is something, and the question talks about something. It should not be something. It should be go with why I'm very many times, not necessary you should have so many authors together. Even the single author, when they divide the portion of it amongst themselves, that is, they divide in the beginning she goes with the introduction, and later on she goes for the conclusion. In between the research paper, definitely it takes 4 to 6 months. So now what happens in the period of 6 months, you're not able to connect to each other. That is, you're not able to connect the introduction part, the abstract part, along to the conclusion. So we should try to find out. It's not only with many authors together, even the single author goes wrong. So we have to be very careful in writing and clubbing the entire portion of it. And the next part is start writing before the experiment are complete. So always keep this in mind. When you plan to go for a research article, when you start, try to get a lot of material in the beginning. So now what happens when you collect a lot of material, already you have so much in your computers. So open a folder and have many files in the sense, like, as I told you, when you are writing the research article, it is, you start with the abstract. In the meantime, collect the introduction. When you are writing the introduction, you collect the reviews. So what I'm trying to say is, in your PC itself, you have one folder for it and name the folder for the research article. Maybe your subject, if you're doing on the performance management, or you're doing in working capital, or anything of your choice. So name it nicely. Divide the entire folder into small files where you name it. Let it be the one introduction. The second thing, collect all the reviews in it. Keep it aside. Why I'm saying this is in order to avoid lot of confusion. Why? Because most of the time what happens after collecting the data, while sitting and writing the main thing, the main research paper, when we are not having the sufficient data, we end up with frustration, and sometimes we don't publish also. Why should we do that? So start writing while you are still doing the experiment, and writing often will give you the new ideas. So don't stop it. What I'm trying to say here is, while experimenting, while collecting the data reviews, and while what happens when you are when you are making the questionnaire, that time itself you get started writing. Why? Because while writing you get new ideas where you have to put in. So what happens, start writing while you are still doing the experiment. Writing will create new ideas. Don't try to write and edit at the same time. That is also will end up with a mess. While edit, that is, collect the data, then sit peacefully, then start writing. And one more thing, what I found was like while giving the research paper, we do write the references, and it should contain at least 30 of it is a research paper, not the ordinary one. Many times I have seen the papers getting rejected where the reference is not sufficient. So that is why collect the data as much as you can, and don't edit immediately. Maybe at a later part of time, you can edit it. Collect the data, you organize it. Maybe the editing you can remove. Why? Because we all know very well, of course, when we give the research paper, it should be at least minimum of 5,000 to 7,000 words. It should be minimum of 15 to 20 words, 20 pages. So it's not that easy. It's not that easy to sit and write. And put all your headings, put all your data collect under the headings, and have a daily target to store the relevant material in your folder, and mark the folder as one to be the introduction, the second to be the methods. See, what I'm trying to say here is, when you collect the reviews, maybe first review, for example, if you're writing about the banking, if you have started collecting the reviews, maybe one is relevant. Maybe if you are writing on the online bank, and you have collected the you have collected the one review, one article where you like only the introduction. Take that particular article into the introduction, not to some other. If you like the introduction, take it to the introduction folder, not to some other. If you feel that that particular article result is amazing, what they have, it can help you out, then take that particular article and put it in your result folder. Don't get confused. Whatever you like it. Why? Because it's not that, of course, the research journals and all, they expect you to give the references of 25 to 30. But I feel that when you are really writing, when you have decided, when you have created the willingness to write the research article, definitely you should go through at least 70 to 100 articles, only then. So that is why I'm saying you have to create the willingness. Why? Because just thinking that, oh, 100 articles, why should I? It's not that easy. Publishing a research article is not that easy as you think. There is no simple formula at all. So now what happens? Store all the information in the material folder marked introduction, method, result, discussion. This will definitely help you to save time and avoid frustrations when writing begins. So store all the items, figures, everything, the reference, it's all needed. Then what I like to say is, like when you for example, sometimes these research article writers, they end up saying that I'm not able to find the references, I'm not able to find many papers. See, for example, if for example, in my case, if I wanted to go write about the online banking, I'm just I'm referring. Now it's actually the click of the button, we get all the information. We are able to see so many articles at one stretch. What I'm saying is, when you open one article of your choice, what you have, and you are not able to find some other, just open the article, find out, see to that the references what that particular person has given. Some ABC has written one article, just go down to the reference section. Definitely, if it is a research article, she would have given 25 references. Pick it up and just go into each one of it. You will get a lot of information. I'm saying, maybe you may not. That is, when you typing error, sometimes you do not know what to type. For the online banking, on maybe context is not matching, but we can do all these things in order to find our papers. It is really easy. And the next stage, see, like I told you, that was the initial stage where we had been talking about the willingness, we had been talking about the space. And now in the next stage of writing the stage, the first thing we had been talking about determining the author. And the second, what is that? After writing stage, when we get into the submitting stage, what happens? The first thing what we have to think about, pick the right journal. Pick the right journal. That is very important, guys. That is really important. We don't find. See, when we wanted to write an article, see to that the scope of the article matches. Article in the sense that the scope of the journal matches. Check that your article is within the scope of the journal that you are going to submit. If it doesn't match, please don't go for it. It is of no use. If, for example, if I'm writing banking, go for the banking journal. Don't go for something else. If I'm writing on computers, go for it. Some people, I have seen the commerce academicians where they are publishing into the computer journal. There is no use at all. There is no. So check that your article is within the scope of the journal that you are going to submit. It is really a bad sign. It would be really a bad sign if an option where you can go get in and see. You can check its availability. Sometimes some journals are there where the broad topic is like ABC journal for computers and mathematics, but inside they would be given as commerce. They would write as account. But I feel that when you consider, like, many things you cannot go with, it is unlikely that one for so many things, but I can compromise other things. But this is not really. There is one essential feature you should not compromise on. That is, manuscript must be pre-reviewed, peer-reviewed for publication if they are to be considered research. tool to be zero. You have no value at all. So how
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Fahima, ma'am, you are not audible. Fahima, ma'am, you are in mute.
ma'am now? Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. So far you were mute, ma'am. So you were talking about journals where you were talking about publishing your commerce paper in multidisciplinary
Yes,
journal.
yes.
After that, we couldn't hear you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll go. Yeah. So we have to pick up the right journal I was talking about, where we have to pick up the journal where the article is within the scope, first thing. And the second thing is we should not compromise on submitting the manuscript where it is not peer reviewed. So the publication should be peer reviewed, only then it will be considered as the research article. And we have to look upon the impact factor. The higher the impact factor, the more highly ranked is. So always we have to think upon. Now, for example, now I have given the list of journals for the Scopus. For example, not necessarily you have to go for this. I'm just giving an example. If you're writing in finance, go for the Journal of Finance. If you're writing on the financial management, go for the Journal of Multinational Financial Management. Don't go the reverse way. So that is why when you are particular about what you have chosen, what your product is, you have to be very careful. And similarly, I have given a list of Web of Science list of journal also, like the Managerial Finance, Annals of Finance, then financial market. So that is what I'm trying to say here is when we are talking about the finance itself, there are so many things happening. Like if I'm writing a research article where I am going to talk about, where I'm going to write about the stock market, I need not go for managerial finance at all. So I have to decide in the beginning where I'm after finishing my article, I have to be very clear with where I'm going to submit it. So all these things are a matter of concern. And the next thing is what we have to go about is always follow the correct submission procedures. Often, very often, what happens, the authors, we don't spend 10 minutes, we don't read the instructions and we go wrong. All these things happen. So that is what I'm trying to say is when you are submitting, kindly spend that 10 minutes to understand the procedure. Why? Because every journal, they have their a set of rules, regulations, in the sense that they do expect when they are going.
Fahima, ma'am, sorry to interrupt you. Your
Yes,
presentation is not visible to us.
one second, ma'am, I'll just check it out. Now, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now it is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. So always follow the certain instructions which is being given by the journal people, because they have the set of rules and regulation where they are not going to skip just because you pay the money, right? So we have to follow the instruction which is given. They may have the alignment thing, they may expect all these things. Like sometimes what happens here is the context. If they are not happy with the context, they go with, see, for example, now I have given you certain things like peer review comments. Now what happens, they do expect the abstract. Many times we are seeing the authors giving the articles without the abstract. Sometimes they don't give the result, they just give the data analysis and the result is not there. They according to them, they say that the data analysis is there, they have given the explanation, so they have not given the results separately. That does not go with. And sometimes we are seeing authors giving the papers without the reference, sufficient reference. If they give 10, definitely the paper not going to accept it. Why should they accept a paper, and why they have to publish a paper which is weak? So all these things are important. So, and one more thing is, like, as I have jotted it down, typically an abstract should be at least of 150 to 250 words. Then the entire article should be 5,000. And this 5,000 is excluding the references. What happens many times, the author, we have seen them giving the reference also is including the article. No. It does not happen like that. Please excluding the references, they have to give 5,000 words. And the entire length of the manuscript, what it has been given for publication, it should be at least 15 pages and a maximum of 25 pages. And apart from that, there should be 5 tables and 8 figures. Many times what happens, the authors, they come up and say, no, we have given the table, why should we give figures? Earlier it's not for the earlier, usually for the PhDs, the one who does the PhD, they go for the research work. So now what happens, these PhDs, people and all, the one come up saying that when we are giving you the tables, what is the need of the figures? It's not like that. You have to make both. See, for the PhD thesis, usually what happens, the university people, they ask you either the tables or the figure. Here it does not happen like that. They expect at least 5 tables and 8 figures from the research for a better understanding. And the tables and the figures, everything, it should be clearly mentioned, the naming of it, the numbering of it, everything is a matter. And here again, I have posted there, the reference, it should be at least 20 to 25. It can be more also. So apart from all these things, apart from the numbering, apart from the number of words, apart from the number of pages, apart from the 20 to 25 references, the most important thing what the journal expects is the quality. The quality has to be improved. That is, if there is lack of or sufficient quality, the contribution is not there, definitely the paper gets rejected. So that is why we have to be very careful with it. And of course, see here, I have given you the alignment. This is the basic thing which we go across. That is, we have to follow the alignment of everything. Only the title should be 22 fonts. The other things and all, they take it as the 10 size, the same times Roman. All these things we have to be very particular about. Otherwise, the rejection. Why I'm saying all this is, you might be thinking that these are the simple things. See here, when you wanted to publish your article, if you give the article not making all these changes, what happens? It takes every time it takes at least a period of 20 days to get the review. So what happens, already we are spending 6 months, 4 months, or at least 5 months to write an article, and we give it to them. And after going through the article, the journal person returns back to your manuscript saying that it is not aligned. So what happens, every time 20 days, even if I miss single thing, even if I miss even a single thing, what happens, the review comes only after 20 days. Now what happens, it goes for years. So that is why, in order to avoid all these things, let us be clear with everything. Let it be the font size, let it be the numbering, let it be your tables, let it be your figures, everything, it's a matter of concern. And apart from doing so much of work, a common reason for rejection is lack of context, which we have to be very careful with. So that is why from the beginning, I'm telling you, when you wanted to write an article, create a folder, collect lot of data. And just collecting the data is not enough. Seriously, I'm telling you, collecting the data is not at all enough. Go through the data. Maybe once you collect 75 reviews, keep it aside. As I told you, apart from you spend at least 1 hour or half an hour quality time only for the research work. Half an hour is enough. So now what happens every day if you go through one article, you get to know what it is and you will start writing only on that. You won't be like, there won't be any kind of deviation. A common reason for rejection is lack of context. Make sure that it is clear when you are writing the research article, and there should not be a gap in the knowledge. Like few papers got rejected stating that like the introduction does not go along with the conclusion. You have given the introduction, but it does not go. See, sometimes even they say that even the heading does not match. For example, if I'm writing on the banking and I have started writing on online banking instead of traditional banking, it is a foolishness. It's a waste of time what I have been spending on. So I have to be very clear of it while writing, because I have collected the data. Why should not I write on what it is? Often author doesn't spend time. Make sure that it is clear where your research sits within the widest scope. Why? Because it should go along. Even it's not only that the authors articles within is within the scope of the journal. Even the journal scope of their journal, they will reject it. Why they have to publish? Why they will job particulars of the investment, we have to am I audible, ma'am? Can you hear me? Obviously, because your plan is for writing the research, it should be represented with the help of the tables and the figures. You will be certain your result before you worry too much.
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Though
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are unmute. Now you are audible.
I'll,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. I'm just checking. I got lost in this internet. I'm just. So I was talking about the construction of the tables and the figure and the legends. Those things are really important. Ensure that your tables, figures, and legends are completely clear and self-contained. Many times we are seeing authors who sending, it's not legitimate, it is not self-contained. So now what happens immediately? The journal people, they will send it back. Do not allow any chance of misunderstanding. And the next part is revising the manuscript. These steps involve actually three major tasks. Each one is like, first one, uh, make the major alteration, fill the gap. See, after writing also, you may find it, you would have seen, like after writing also, you may feel that some flaw is there. There is no some logic. It has to be restructured. It happens. That is normal. That is nothing wrong. So now what we have to do is we have to fill the gaps. Now, for example, we have written the introduction, and in between all the data analysis has gone, and finally you give the conclusion. Now what happens? You have to club all together. That is, you have to make a connection, what you're talking and what you are proving it. Got it? We are proving with the help of the statistical data. Now we have to restructure the document to present it in a most logical order. There should be some logic. We have to polish the entire style, refine the text. Maybe if you feel that, see, always we have to refine the text. After writing everything, see, usually what happens when we, after collecting the data, when we sit, write, we go with a simple language. All these things happen, and sometimes we make the grammatical mistakes. Sometimes the spelling goes wrong. Sometimes we don't make the proper punctuation. If we don't do this seriously, if we are not taking care of the punctuation, the meaning differs, and we have to take care of the spacing, fonts, numbering, margin, all these things. And usually, like in my experience, what I've seen is after collecting the data, when I write it, after writing, after preparing the entire research article, then what do I do is certain softwares are available in the market. That is, it is free of cost, where you can download it or you can upload your document. The entire document you cannot do it. Maybe you can select like 100 words and input into the software and get it done. Seriously, I'm saying the one best example where I have seen is the Quillbot. It is amazingly well. It refines the text so amazingly, really. It gives a new outlook to the entire research work. And always keep with us, apart from the major alterations, apart from polishing your style, we have to take care of the formatting the document also. It is important to do the task instead of ordering. Otherwise, what happens, you will find spending a lot of time revising material. So some time only for formatting the document. So when we are revising the gaps, we have to see to that we fill the gaps. There should be a logic between the entire paper. It should not be like, usually what happens, you start with something, you end up with something, when especially when too many authors are there. Let it see to that it does not happen. And the next thing is, what you have to check upon is check the reference. That is also important. Ensure that citations are correct and it is complete. Do not let any literature being written without the citation. It's very important, guys. So now what I'm doing here is, in the entire paper, definitely when you would have given, definitely you would have taken there are references from so many reviews, all this review of literature, you would have done it, but the citation is very important. Like when you give your research paper, like for example, if you have in the entire introduction, if it is running for around 2 pages, now maybe the first half you have taken from one article, that is the ideas you have taken from the one article, please number it. That is the number in the sense that you have to give the citation where you have given. Maybe you number it as 1, and in the reference column, you just put that article full details from where you have taken, who's the author, and when it was published, which volume, which issue, all these things are matter of concern where we have to. So check the references. And after revising your manuscript, definitely we have an idea. That's all. We end up by going for publishing. And before that, see to that, you have to be very careful with the title, the entire paper goes hand in hand. We decide one name of one, what to say. Of course, if you might be writing on the online banking or traditional banking, or you might be writing on the financial market, or you might be writing on some particular stock market or something that is you might have researched on. But after writing it, see to that it goes hand in hand. That is, it should match with each other. Ensure after making the editing, after making the changes, after editing process, see to that the title, the abstract goes or matches with the final version of your article. It is your final version, which is that you're going to publish it, which you are going to send to the journal publisher, right? So see to that abstract. Many times I am seeing that while I was going into the process, they say that it does not go. It does not match. You have started working on this particular topic, but some deviation is there. See to that the lines. So that is why they say single voice. It should be a single voice. Then finally, what happens? You decide it is the time to publish. So when you decide, that is, when do you decide? Only after making all the correction, everything. Simply collecting the given amount of data is not sufficient. So everything, what happens? You collect the data, you prepare the research article, all these things happen. After doing all that, when can you say it is final? When can you say? Only when you decide, when you send your paper for publication. So before sending the publication, make a small revision. Getting feedback is also important. Send your article to your very close academician friends, or apart from that, if you have co-authors for your own research paper, ask them to go through it once, twice. Let them indicate if there is any flaw, make the changes. Nothing wrong in it. Nobody's going to put you down. Don't feel low at all. When you decide to publish, if your manuscript is ready for publication, just have a look. You yourself have a look on the entire data. See to that whether everything is matching, everything is fine, whether the language is correct, whether the grammatical things are correct, whether there is logic between the data collection, statistical data, and what you have written, the theoretical also. Everything is a matter of concern. After that, ask your co-authors also to go through finally and give the reviews, so that you can make the changes, and ask maybe your very close friend who's the academician in your own stream. They can also comment on it and work on the comment. Do not submit your manuscript until you feel it is ready for publication. Once it is accepted, now what happens after, once you feel that, yes, I wanted to publish it, and you give it to the publisher, then after giving the manuscript to the publisher, if you feel that, no, I want to make some changes with few lines, then definitely I'm telling you, it would, it is really costly. You cannot back it. You cannot back it. You have to go for it. So that is. And the final thing, what we have to see here, of course, we know we put a lot of time, we put a lot of effort, we sacrifice so much, and finally we go with preparation of the publication article, everything. But most manuscripts are not accepted on the first submission. We have to accept that too. However, you may well be invited to resubmit a revised manuscript. So what happens when we send our papers to them? Sometimes they may feel that something has gone wrong, something is missing. Immediately they will, they will invite you to resubmit. That is, they'll ask you to revise it. Take it, accept it. You do not need to make all the changes, of course. You may, if you feel that this change, particularly, for example, the review, that is, the publisher has told you to make the revision for 10 things, and if you feel that 8 things I'm going to make it, the other 2 things I'm not going to, you should be convincing. It should be rational. Got it? It should be rational. You should convince them. You should stand for it. It's almost like, I must say, PhD public by where you have to make a stand. Yes, I have done it. Why I have done it, you should know the answer. So that is why be mentally prepared, be what to say, intellectually prepared. Okay. And first of all, take it. If there is any revision, take it. Don't leave it as such. Of course, you can do it. And when you use the reviewer comments, sometimes it gets rejected. Be polite, be normal, don't feel obliged. Make sure that you address everything. Deal with the comments. Don't misunderstand. All these things is a part of. And after doing all these things, making the corrections, everything, go for the check the proof. What is this check the proof? Is once you finish all the review, that is after the review comments comes to you, you make the changes and you give it back to them. Now what happens? Of course, they will select it. They will go through everything, every tiny part of it. Your research article, you'll go through. Now, what happens once the manuscript is accepted and prepared for the print, the publisher will send the proof to you. They will send the pages proof, that is the article proof to you, that is to the authors. This may be accompanied with list of queries will come for you where you have to tell. And definitely this will take maximum of, that is, this will take in the sense that they will tell you, you will be given a maximum of 1 or 2 days where you have to return the proof. So carefully correct any typing error, any factual error, if any changes you wanted to make. Of course, the big changes, even the publisher is not going to accept. Why? Because they have accepted your paper after making all the reviews, all the changes, everything. Got it? So now they are not going to, if the minor changes are there, if minor modifications have to be made, definitely they will entertain. If you want to make big changes, definitely it will cost you a lot of money you have to spend for that. So don't delay for it. If you anything major changes is required, you first get permission from the journal editor and then prepare for it and be prepared for the additional cost too. Once everything is done, that's all. You have to just celebrate, enjoy the movement. As per Robert Day, what he says, the goal of scientific research is publication. A scientific experiment, no matter how spectacular the result is, not complete until the results are published. So always keep this in mind. You should have willingness, then create a space, then start writing it. When you start writing it, see to that you collect lot of data and put it in your folder. Always maintain a folder. Of course, it is not easy for us to publish more than 2 articles. Why? Because even for one single article, we have to spend at least 6 months, 4 months or 5 months for writing the article. And after that, after sending to the publisher, definitely it takes 2 to 3 months for receiving the review comments. As I told you in the beginning itself, when it does not happen, like today you give the article and tomorrow be polite with them. Use the reviewer Yes, ma'am, I have completed for the day.
Thank you so much, Rahima ma'am. The feedback link is posted in the chat box. Participants can fill up the feedback. Uh, is there any question to ask to Rahima ma'am? You can just post it on the chat box. Fahima ma'am, no questions posted in the chat box.
Yes,
We shall formally propose the vote of thanks. Priya, requesting you to formally propose the vote of thanks. Priya, can you unmute yourself and talk? Oh, sorry if I ma'am, mother. Also, anyway, thank you so much for the.
Thank you, ma'am.